Episode of the Pu'u Muay Thai Podcast is brought to you by pmtlifestyle.com. Authentic Muay Thai lifestyle by Pu'u. Definitely go check out the website at pmtlifestyle.com for some awesome lifestyle merchandise. That's for those of you out there either involved in Muay Thai, looking at getting involved in Muay Thai, and embrace a healthier lifestyle to live the life of the Nok Muay. Go check it out.
I want to talk about Black Room at Deep Studios. If you enjoy the content of this podcast, you will definitely enjoy the value that you get out of the Black Room and being a member of the Black Room. What it is it's a subscriber-based way to support the podcast. If you enjoy the podcast and want it to continue, I'm asking for your help. And in exchange, you're going to get an underground view of Muay Thai, American Muay Thai, as well as within Thailand. We have people who are now working on the ground in Thailand that are helping us get media, content, all that stuff. We're posting it there on Black Room, as well as behind-the-scenes footage of the podcast recordings when we're recording. After I stop recording for stuff that we broadcast, we put some subscriber-based only content on there. So you're going to really get a lot of value out of that subscription. Okay, it's not just supporting the podcast. We also have podcast subscriber-only merchandise that's coming out as well here in 2024. So you have to be a part of the Black Room in order to get access to that. So I'm asking you for your help on that, but I know that it's not so much of you helping me. It's going to be us giving you a ton of value that you're going to get and just enjoy it. And it's only $5 a month. All right, you can cancel it anytime. Every little bit counts. Please go join it. The link is down in the show notes. All right. Anyways, sit back and enjoy the show. Welcome to this episode of the Pu'u Muay Thai Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Pu'u. If this is your first time tuning in, I have been involved in Muay Thai for over 18 years now, going from amateur, pro fighter. Now we're going into coaching, helping start multiple Muay Thai academies. Been running Pu'u Muay Thai for over 10 years. You've had this podcast for over 5 years now, posting consistently and giving and providing free content to everybody out there. I also work as a professional Muay Thai ring official. I've been doing that for coming up on 9 years now. So coming up on 10, I think, actually. I had to look back on that. But anyways, needless to say, heavily involved. I'm coming to you here live from Teep Studio in Scottsdale, Arizona. You might be wondering, Teep Studio, Scottsdale, Arizona, what? All right, so if it's your first time tuning in, this is the first, from my knowledge, and only Muay Thai podcast studio in the USA and in North America, I believe. I think Mexico actually might have one because WBC Muay Thai down there does it. WBC Muay Thai Mexico, to be precise. So with that, today what I'm going to be talking about, and it was based upon a conversation I actually had in the DMs on Instagram. And it's in regards to ranking and some of the things that are involved with Muay Thai and what it takes to grow Muay Thai. But today's conversation is about ranking and why rankings are the way they are, the differences between them and everything as well. So let's start off first. We're going to start off with what we call promotional titles, or promotional champions, right? So if you think about in like UFC, so UFC champion, UFC world champion, that is a promotional champion. There's no big sanctioning body for MMA, right? So there's also one championship that is a promotional title. One championship does Muay Thai, kickboxing, MMA, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So if I'm a one championship world champion in my sport, right, whatever the sport may be, or multiple sports, I'm a promotional champion. It's a promotional title. And where this kind of varied a bit is if you look back at boxing, right? Boxing have the ABC letters of every sanctioning organization: WBC, WBO, IBF, NABF. You can like go on and on and on and on for every like region of the world. There is a different organization. And there's been a couple that have been surviving through the test of time, but this is really what came into like having those top 10 rankings, right? When it comes into a ranking system. So promotions such as ONE or UFC or other, there's Bellator, they have their own ranking as well. Understandably, they're trying to build up their promotion. And some of those titles, if you look at MMA, for example, with there not being a global sanction, like a organization that does ranking, UFC became like the promoter and the organization. If you look at it, they have their own sanctioning, which we could talk about another time. Those are the people that enforce the rules and stuff like that, referees, judges. And they do have some of their preferred ones when they go outside of the USA jurisdiction where they have boxing commissions that oversee it. So, and a lot of times they use the people from the US, from the boxing commissions, because they've worked side by side with them for so long in getting the sport fully regulated for mixed martial arts, right? But that's to kind of give you an idea. There was also the I think it was Ring Sport magazines, like they had a top 10 as well for boxing. And what that meant is they created they took all these other boxing organizations and made their own top 10 list, and that became like the de facto top 10 for boxing for a very long time. So that's to give you like some preface on and some context really on what it is with these rankings and kind of what they mean, and the purpose of this podcast to educate you on this, right? So this doesn't include like amateur rankings. Right? There's other amateur organizations, there's USA Kickboxing, Waco, there's USA Muay Thai, there's IFMA Muay Thai, and then you go into pro, WMC, WBC Muay Thai, and WBC Muay Thai now has amateur, and there's IFMA Muay Thai is kind of linked in with WMC as well, to create more confusion on all the different labels, right? So let's go into kind of like what the differences are between MMA and boxing and Muay Thai, right? Boxing, it's been around a very long time, international, global sport. It has a lot of money behind it, and there's a lot of people that fight in boxing. There's sponsors that get behind boxing. MMA has got there as well. They still don't make as much money as some of these boxers do. Obviously, if you don't know that, they don't make that much money for what they do. All right, they're not getting paid enough. I'll just say that. Going into Muay Thai, they make even less. So if you're new to Muay Thai and you're kind of you're seeing all this activity, it's because there's more activity now internationally than there has been ever for Muay Thai. But the market of sponsors and money behind the sport hasn't really gotten there. Organizations and promotions such as not UFC, but One Championship is one of those organizations that's doing that, right? They're getting the sponsorship money. They're getting the big sponsors behind it for a global scale, not just in Thailand. In Thailand, you've seen like Toyota, Mitsubishi, like big car companies getting behind it because they don't have to put as much money behind it there because it costs less money to do events in Thailand. Like a purse for championship prize is going to be much less there than it would be in the USA, for example. So going into like the rankings for Muay Thai, somebody like I just reposted like WBC Muay Thai's request for pro fighters in the US for WBC Muay Thai USA to submit their ranking. And someone asked like legit questions like, hey, what if they are like looking to get people, like from my understanding was to get people submitted into ranking, right? Why aren't people fighting for that? And my answer to that was, it's like, for me, I have the context of it. It made me realize that you who are out there, maybe you do know this. And, it's just kind of giving you some context when you talk to people about it. But there's not like a lot of the weight classes for Muay Thai in the US for pro, there's not even a top 5. There's not even like 5 active pro fighters in those weights. Just to give you some context. All right. And with the US and with how everything is, there's no central list of fighters fighting professionally from the USA. There's no global list. There's no national list, much less like a state list, like a state from a boxing commission. If they have one, they'll have a list of people, but they don't keep up to date on their records and stuff like that. So it takes an organization like what WBC Muay Thai is doing. Other organizations have tried to do it and are doing it as well. I'm just mentioning it because it made that conversation happen. They're trying to get people to, hey, submit your information. We want to rank you. If you're fighting and you're active, like we want to keep you on the radar. That way we can keep an eye out for you and figure out like, hey, are you somebody that should be in this top 5 or top 10? right? If there's a top 5, hey, are you in that top 10? Are you in that top 5? Should you be contending for that? Should you be doing fighting for number 1 and then a championship fight? Like, they want to know this because you can only keep track of so many people, right? So to get the submission, that's why stuff like that is so important, because you got to throw your name in that. It doesn't matter if you know the people. Here's the thing is, if you don't talk to them every day, it's easy because they get so much shit thrown at them that it's easy to forget like that you're an active fighter. Like there's so many fights that go on any given week, right? Any given day, much less in Muay Thai. And they spell your name wrong, whatever it may be. Unless you can Google it and like look it up, it's reliant right now a lot on the fighters and the camps and the coaches to submit that information to organizations. So and be truthful about it and not sandbag or inflate it, right? If all of a sudden someone pops up and says they have 120 fights and they want to be number 1, it's like, okay, well, where the fuck were you? Like, how did you get 120 fights, right? So they got to be truthful on it, and it is vetted. You do have to provide proof on it. But what the hope is this becomes a one-time thing, because we're really at that ground level of the sport in the USA and in the West, really, when it comes into actually establishing an ascension into like higher levels of fighting here in the US. It hasn't been done. So once that's established, the goal is to have a cycle of people coming from like the development leagues through amateurs and the tournaments and getting into the lower level like pro shows. You know, if you think about like Max Muay Thai or fighting at JF Boxing Stadium or fighting low level shows in Mexico or in the US, whatever it may be, unranked, just to get established and build a rhythm, and getting into those upper cards of like higher level professional, the RWSs, the one championships, things like that as well. So that way you can build your name and your title, right? Like your name is your brand as a fighter. And these organizations, they want to be a part of your story and help promote that. If you're fighting for their organization, right? If you're fighting for their promotion, if you're fighting under an organization, right, they're going to want to build you up as well, especially if you're doing good, right? So it's in their best interest to get your information. And it's in your best interest to get aligned with these organizations and these promotions that are doing this. So if you're a fighter or you're a coach, you need to like be actively putting your fighters out there. Like I talk about media and stuff all the time. It's one of the reasons why we started the podcast, is to get a platform for our team to be able to leverage people and like our friends and stuff like that, to be able to build them up. And it's become into what it is today. So when it comes into the ranking criteria and stuff, each organization has their own thing. They usually have like a board they go through, and then they set like a point system about how to get the points. I really like how RWS does it. I've actually talked about it on the RWS versus One Championship episode of the Pu'u Muay Thai podcast. So you should go check that out if you have not watched that. But I just think it's a really important one. So that's really all I wanted to talk about today, and just wanted to catch up with everybody, say what's up. I've been sick for 2 weeks. I have a bacterial infection. I'm just like, it keeps coming and going. It's kicking my butt, but got a lot on the plate. We have our next Eat, Sleep, Teep event coming up. We're pretty sure May 17th is the date. Stay tuned for more details on that in Ventura, California. We have our Pu'u Muay Thai training camp in Bangkok, Thailand, for March. We're going to be out there the week of March 17th. So I'll be in Bangkok, Thailand. I'll probably be doing some podcasting from out there as well. And looking forward to connecting with some of my friends out there and bringing an awesome group out there. We have the U.S. Muay Thai Open Championship Tournament in Mesa, Arizona, that we have, I think, 12 competitors between Pu'u Muay Thai Ventura and Pu'u Muay Thai Santa Barbara that are competing as well. And we have some other things that are in the works, some surprises for you. It might be time to grow the Ventura Academy. So I will just leave it at that for today. For those of our students that listen, do with that what you will. But just really looking forward to seeing what happens in the next, 6 months. There's going to be a lot of activity. We're going to be really busy. And I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in. As always, if you want to support the podcast, it's really simple. For $5 a month, you can support the Pu'u Muay Thai Podcast YouTube channel, all the content that we do. Link is down in the show notes if you're listening to this. If you're on YouTube, it's down there in the description for the Black Room. All it is a VIP behind the scenes access. Like I talked about all this stuff that was going on. We have people who are our guests on the podcast. It's like the green room of Pu'u Muay Thai, where you can go in there. But that's just an added perk for you to be able, when you come in there, for $5 a month, cancel at any time. But it helps support us to get us new fancy lighting equipment and new cameras and stuff like this too. So looking forward to keep growing. And with that said, thank you so much for coming today. So what do you cop?
All right, that's going to be it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in today to the Pu'u Muay Thai Podcast. If you enjoy the content, go leave a review over on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. Give us a rating. It means the world to us. Also, if you want to be a guest on the Pu'u Muay Thai Podcast, or if you just want to shout out to your friend, go check us out at podcast.pu'umuaythai.com. You can submit to be able to be a guest on the podcast. You can submit what you want to talk about. Also, if you want to just give a shout out, there's a button for that too. So what do you cop?